Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to get started here momentarily. We're just going to wait for the viewers to log in. Okay, great. I see that they've logged in. So again, thank you so much. Welcome to today's My Solo 401k Financial webinar. We've got a great session. We're super excited. We've got a true cryptocurrency expert here with us from ErisX. So let's get started. And I'll just say, hey, please like this video, please subscribe, please ask questions in the chat. And I see we've already got a few questions come in. That's awesome. And then we'll go through all the questions. If you're watching this on a recording, you can ask questions in the comments. We'll put some chapter links in the YouTube description so you can jump ahead. And again, yeah, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for taking the time. So here's our description of what we're going to talk about. So we've got really an A to Z guide to open an account for your solo 401k at ErisX. As you can see from the screen, we've got John Denza, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at ErisX. He's going to kick us off talking about the benefits and features of ErisX. We're going to also lay the foundation with what is cryptocurrency, taxation considerations. Then we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how to open up an account at ErisX. So that's going to be, we're going to go through page by page the application, and we're going to talk about some of the tidbits as far as just investing your solo 401k funds in cryptocurrency. So let's get started. So welcome, John. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. We really appreciate it.
All right, perfect. Thanks, George. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here, so thank you. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for ErisX. We're a spot and futures digital asset exchange. I wanted to walk you through a quick timeline of how we came to be and kind of give you the history of ErisX. So prior to what you're seeing on the slide, the company was founded about 7-8 years ago. They had created an interest rate swap futures product, and when they did that, they actually petitioned the CFTC for a designated contract market status. So what does that mean? That means that we actually have the ability to operate a futures exchange. So we had this medallion, and we had this futures product, and we ended up clearing the futures product with the CME, because they actually have what's called a DCO, a derivative clearing organization, which means that they can clear futures trades. So to fast forward, we end up licensing the IP to the CME, and we're left holding this futures exchange medallion. And the early investors, which you can see on our website, include names like DRW, CTC, and some others. They recognize the need for mass adoption in the space, and we wouldn't have mass adoption from the institutional front unless we had regulation, transparency, and compliance. So with that being said, in 2017, Q3 of 2017, we get the approval to start moving forward on a crypto exchange, and then we start moving forward. And then I would say in April 2019, we launched our spot market, started trading spot. And then a couple months later, we actually got approved for our own DCO. It's a federal license from the CFTC, and there's only been about a dozen or more of those ever been approved in the US. So it puts us in a unique position because we're the only crypto exchange that's ever actually been approved for a DCO. So fast forward, we actually put a tremendous amount of effort into building and scaling the platform from a technology standpoint, but also going out and obtaining all the money transmitter licenses throughout the US. We have 50 of them right now that we can do business in 50 different states. And then I would say in about April of 2020, roughly, we received what's called the New York BIT license from the New York Department of Financial Services. It's a very difficult license to obtain. I think there's only been about one other that's been approved since our approval. So we're able to work with now New York residents as well. So in, I would say, December 2019, to take a step back, we actually launched our own new proprietary trading technology and launched our first physically settled futures trade. In 2020, we were the first firm to get approved for ETH futures, which the CME piggybacked on for our application for the new product. And then also we launched a cash settled futures product too for futures. And then to take things ahead, I would say about 3 or 4 months ago, we started having this tremendous inbound request from IRA providers to offer access to crypto because people wanted to diversify their portfolios. And that's where the growth has been. It's been quite amazing. I've been involved with several participants that are rounding out their portfolios with crypto. And then lastly, just to take a step back, we are focused on our margin application with the CFTC, as you could see on that sheet there, the history there. And we're hopeful that sometime in maybe Q3, Q4, we'll have an approval. And then that puts us in a unique position, George, because then we have spot and we have futures on the same platform. So when you look at a Gemini or a Coinbase, they only trade spot. If you look at Bakkt or CME, they're only futures. So we'll actually be able to have both products on the same platform.
That's great. And maybe that's a great overview, and obviously compliance that's really aligns with for us what we really like to focus on. So sounds good. And just maybe you could shed light on kind of like what's the kind of the latest going on in the crypto space, kind of like we talked about before we went live with this webinar.
Perfect. I think that one of the biggest pivot points for the industry that people underestimate was the news that PayPal had entered into the space and they're offering their client base access to crypto. If you look at it, I mean, PayPal has 350 million users on their platform. And
Right.
to put that into perspective, prior to that announcement, there were only ever created, was 100 million wallets that have ever been created. So that basically overnight, we 3.5x'd the amount of people that could now have access to crypto. I think that was just a tremendous pivot point for the industry that people underestimate. And then I would also say, you know, one of the big things too is people are always worried about what you call it. I was going to say the stability of the asset. And I always use Tesla as a reference point. If you look at Tesla in March of 2020, it was trading at $85. You take that fast forward over a year, at its peak, it was trading at $4,000. It went through basically a 47x growth spurt from that point on. If you're going to mirror that time period to what Bitcoin has done, it's actually grown about 9x, which just goes to show you the stability of the product. That when people say, "Oh, there's these wild gyrations in the product," it's not. The product is actually maturing with time, which just speaks volumes about the growth. And then also there's other players key to the space that are entering. If you look at the news coming out about Bank of New York, which is the largest custodian in the world, saying they're actually going to custody crypto by the end of the year. Fidelity has recently come out with news saying they're actually developing an ETF. You know, and then you look at the major players in the space from a capital market standpoint. Goldman Sachs has actually created a trading desk. Morgan Stanley's now offering products to their private client group. It's just the adoption is just amazing. Every month, I feel like every month we're hitting new milestones.
Yep. Yeah, that's, and from our perspective, I mean, in the self-directed retirement space, I mean, the interest, and I mean, it's probably the number one reason people are signing up for accounts, you know, over the last few months. So it's been amazing. So we've got a ton of comments, which is fantastic, and questions. So we want to be able to get to those, but let's go through a few more of John's slides before we do that. So did you want to touch on this slide?
Yeah, you know what, I wanted to highlight the investor group, that people can realize the type of participants that are behind ErisX. You know, we've got publicly traded companies that are proprietary trading firms, such as Virtu, that have been involved in the space. We have DRW, which their crypto arm is Cumberland, which is probably one of the founding groups to get involved in the crypto space. And then we've got, you know, I would say you look at the crypto native firms. Digital Currency Group is actually the group behind GBTC, which we all know of as being the tracking stock to Bitcoin. And then you've got great names like Bitmain, which is the largest miner for crypto in the country, in the world, I should say. Consensus, the founder of Consensus actually is Joe Lubin, who created ETH, or was one of the founders of ETH. He sits on our board. And then you've also got exchanges like CBOE, CME, and NASDAQ. But the piece that I find, you know, what really got me excited, because I come from a capital markets background, is seeing that Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, and TradeStation are interested in joining our cap table. So seeing that we're having not only sophisticated players who are driving price improvement and execution quality on the exchange, and it's enabling retail participation to thrive.
Yeah, that's definitely those names will capture your attention, especially with our client base. So that's amazing. So Okay, the ErisX platform.
Yep, these are, I just wanted to highlight the coins that we're covering or supporting right now. They're Bitcoin, Ether, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and USDC. It's a small handful of coins right now, just because if you look at the green list in New York, it's limited to the coins that we could list. And then also, we actually, it's not to say that we're not willing to add more coins. We just have a strict process internally here. If there's demand and we feel it is being a benefit to the participants of our exchange, we'll explore it and we'll actually vet it to be added to the exchange. And I wouldn't be surprised that over the next couple months, we'll start expanding our listings.
Can you explain just in quickly, just real high level, what's the difference between spot and future?
Sure. So the spot market is basically what you're looking at from a cash standpoint, what the product is trading at. Let's say you want to buy Bitcoin at 59,000 or 58,000 for one Bitcoin. That's the spot market. The futures market, you're basically taking a guess or an anticipation on where you think the market would be going in the future, and it doesn't require the same collateral requirements. With ErisX, we're actually filed our margin application with the CFTC. So right now the market is fully funded, so it's not ideal. But with the bounded futures product, you actually have the ability to trade the product without actually requiring margin, where we set a cap at a floor for the future, and people are able to trade in between those boundaries.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks for that explanation. So then we've got some screenshots here of what the portal looks like. It looks
Exactly.
really clean.
So this is just the opening screen, so that once you become a member of ErisX, you'd actually have access to this. It shows you're able to pull down reports on your volumes and activity. On the top banner there, you'd be able to see your positions within each of the coins. But what's unique to this page here is the quick trade ticket. So once you log in, if there's cash in your account, you could actually put a quick trade on. And what that means is, let's say you deposited $5,000 into your account, and you want to buy as much as possible with that $5,000 of Bitcoin. You'd hit buy. It would actually show you what the amount would be that you'd be purchasing. If you hit it again, then you'd actually be acquiring the crypto. And in the next slides coming up, you'll see that we have a more sophisticated trading UI as well. This here is actually our mobile version of the product, so you can actually trade on your mobile device. It's sized so that you could fit it. You could see your positions. And it's also got a trade window, and you could also see where the order book is too.
Okay.
This is actually our full-blown trading UI. So within the UI, we have charting in there, which is in the center of the page. The order book was just off center to the left, which is your buys and sells in the green, in the blue, and the red. And then that piece where George was before, all the way to the left, is where the order ticket would be. So you'd actually be able to put in limit orders. You'd be able to work the order if you wanted to. And we also have, for more sophisticated people, if they wanted to actually use certain algo order types like pegging, there's functionality in place there as well. And then on the right side is just trade history coming in. And then the bottom part of the page would be all your working orders and executions as well, where you see to the very bottom of the page that's blank right now.
Okay. It's a nice layout.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is on the mobile version of the previous, I gather?
Yep, just another snapshot of how our mobile version looks like. So if you wanted to actually see on the left, that's the order ticket. We also have got the charts on another window within there. If you click on you see the little bottom pieces there. It says trade and order book and so forth. You can toggle between the different screens there when you're in the mobile version. And then lastly, on that third slide, that third one is the order book. And this, I just wanted to highlight the next slide, George, if you go ahead. At ErisX, we've taken a more regulated approach than our peers in the space. And I just wanted to highlight that part of it, because we're probably more regulated if you're going to compare us to the other exchanges, because we went out of our way. And it's almost like, in a sense, over-regulated, because we went out and got our DCM, our DCO from the CFTC. Our exchange rule set for spot and futures is filed with the CFTC. We went out and we also have acquired the 50 money transmitter licenses throughout the US. And we also got the bit license that you're highlighting there on the bottom.
Great. And there's the money transmitter licenses.
Yep, the Virginia is pending right now, and then in Nevada we actually are approved. We just need to get the final sign off from the participants there in the government. But that should be pending within a week or so.
So this basically means that if I want to go and set up an account, it doesn't matter. I could be in any 50 state, and any of the 50 states, and I can set up an account.
Yep, except for Virginia and Nevada right now, which are pending. But Nevada, I think we'll have within the next week.
Got it. Okay, fantastic. I know that's broader than a lot of the exchanges. They're not quite as caught up to this.
Yeah, it's quite an undertaking that people underestimate to go out, because if you look at each of those states, it's not like you can quickly and easily mirror what you did in each of them. They each have their own individual requirements to get approved.
Yep. Well, thanks to the founding fathers, right? You got,
yes.
you got the flag behind you. So
yes, exactly, George. Thank you.
Yep. All right, and then learn more.
Exactly. So you can go to our website, you can go to our Medium page, and then we're on Twitter as well. So these are all areas that we're always posting information and educating. You know, we're really high on education. We think that that's important for the growth of the industry.
Fantastic. So let's see if we can have any of these comments for you to help us answer. First, if it's going to be a comment about the mechanics of opening an account, we'll go through the slides on opening the account, and then we'll circle back to these. So let me jump through them here. So a lot of people commenting about how long it takes them to open up an account at Coinbase, for example. And
yeah, I would just to touch on that, George. I know that I've got participants from our head of operations and head of client services that are dialed in right now, and I tell you, they do just an amazing job from a client service standpoint and being the front lines for ErisX. You know, one of the things that we're really trying to focus on is being able to bring on accounts as fast as possible. You know, I've heard some of the lead times for Coinbase could be up to 3 months, Gemini 6 weeks. We're trying to keep it somewhere in the realm of about 10 business days to try to approve the accounts. And we're really and right now we're actually coming in faster than that. But you know, that's something that I think is a differentiator to our peers.
Yeah, that's huge. That's like the big pain point for our clients. And so a lot of people are sharing information too about the bank account, which is fantastic. Thanks for sharing all that information and your experience with Gemini, Coinbase, the banks, and that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that information. So we got a question here for John. And that's really, actually, let's take that off, because I'll talk about that unless you want to comment on it, but I'll talk about it from a 401k perspective.
I'd rather you take it, George, if you don't mind.
No problem. So, and then here we go. What's your preferred support line? Email, phone, chat?
We prefer email. We do have access through phone. There are ways to get a hold of us there as well. We do have a market ops phone number. Let me just see what the market ops number is. Just a second. I'm just checking with one of my team members. Let me come back to you on that while they respond to me. But
Okay.
I know that the preference is to always use email first. And I would say that unlike some other people in the space, our teams are really diligent for being able to respond.
Awesome. Yeah. And a lot of people are in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I would say the majority of our team is based in Chicago. And then I am based in New York. There's a handful of us in New York. Okay.
Well, we're here in the Midwest too, as our clients know, in Michigan. So, but we got a lot of love for the East Coast as well, of course. So, okay, let's get started with the nitty gritty, and then I think a lot of these questions will be answered, and we'll knock them out if they're not. So, let's lay the foundation. So, as far as what is cryptocurrency, the IRS Revenue Ruling 2019-24, it's a type of virtual currency. You got Bitcoin, Ethereum, or so you can trade both of those on ErisX, if I'm not mistaken, right, John?
Say that again. I'm sorry. What was that?
So you can trade both Bitcoin and Ethereum on ErisX, right?
That's correct. Sorry, I was reading the comments in the the right-hand column, so I got a little distracted.
Okay, no problem. So then IRS view on of cryptocurrency, they consider it to be property for federal tax purposes. That's where they're at right now with it. So what that means outside of a retirement account is when you sell it, it's going to be subject to capital gains tax rates, short-term or long-term as applicable. Inside of a retirement account, it's going to be tax deferred. It could even be tax free in the case of a Roth solo 401k. And one exception, though, would be if you are mining cryptocurrency, which is outside of ErisX. You're not going to do any mining on ErisX. Then that could be subject to unrelated business income tax if the mining is considered to be an active trade or business. Now we're going to go through an infographic as far as the steps to set up to open a solo 401k, open the account at ErisX and fund it, just to help understand it. So step one. So again, we're talking to folks who are thinking about doing it through a solo 401k. We're going to have another webinar about IRA LLC. So you first have to qualify for a solo 401k. Then you adopt the plan. Then you open up a bank account. You fund the bank account, and then you buy the cryptocurrency. So you transfer the money from the bank account to the account at ErisX, where you can buy the cryptocurrency. So very high level, simple understanding. So let's dig a little deeper in terms of what that means. So a 401k is for a business. So a solo 401k, as opposed to an IRA, which is for an individual. That's what an IRA means, individual retirement account. So a solo 401k is for a self-employed business, an owner-only business. So that means, for example, you're a realtor, you're an attorney, you are a consultant, and you don't have any full-time W-2 employees working for any business that's owned by you or your spouse. That means you can set up a solo 401k. So a 401k is technically a trust. So it's a legal entity. It's the documents that create it. So you need to find a 401k plan, though, that would allow you to invest in cryptocurrency. So if you go and open up a solo 401k, a free, quote unquote, free solo 401k at the major brokerages, they're not going to offer a plan that's going to allow you to invest in cryptocurrency. But a company like us, we have an IRS approved plan, and our plan certainly allows you to invest in cryptocurrency. So we would draft the plan documents where it's sponsored by your self-employed business. Your business could be a sole prop, an S corp, an LLC. Then you would need to open up an account, because we don't have access to any of our customers' money. We're not, and we don't give investment advice. And I should say, this presentation here, we're not giving any investment advice or legal advice. It's for educational purposes. So, but you need to have an account. Step 3, you needed to have an account in the name of your plan, in the name of the trust. So you would open up the account at a bank. So as part of our onboarding process, we prepare all the paperwork that the bank requires. And I know we got a lot of comments about bank accounts, if we could touch on that. But just to lay the foundation in terms of simple terms, you need to have a bank account in the name of the plan, under the EIN of the plan. So a separate tax identification number is obtained for the plan as part of the establishment process. We obtain it. That's different than your EIN that you might have for your business. So you open up the account at the bank under the name, under the EIN of the plan. You fund the account. So there's different ways to fund a 401k. You could roll over money from your existing retirement account. Like if you have a former employer plan. Well, if it's a current employer plan, you're probably gonna have to quit your job before you can roll it over, unless you're over 59 and a half. You could fund it from an IRA, so as long as it's not a Roth IRA. It has to be a pre-tax IRA, because under the Roth IRA rules, you can't transfer money to any type of 401k, including a solo 401k. You can make contributions. So you could contribute to the 401k from your self-employed business. For example, you can contribute as much as $58,000 if you've got the self-employment income to justify it, or even $64,500 if you're 50 or older for 2021. So you get money into that account is the next step. Then you transfer it from the account at the bank to the account at the cryptocurrency exchange. And we're going to talk about that in more detail and opening up the account at ErisX. But that's, in simple terms, what you do. That's how you fund it. So as far as some just highlights, we wanted some tidbits. Again, you want to make sure you use the EIN for the plan in the name of the, it's opened up in the name of the plan. And that's because of tax reporting. I know we got that good question about that. So let's say the bank was to do some tax reporting on this account, because let's say it's an interest-bearing account. It's the bank is going to do the tax reporting under the EIN of the plan. So that way, when we get that EIN number as part of the establishment process, we're letting the IRS know this is a 401k plan. So the money here is tax deferred. Don't look for it to be reported on your business or personal tax return. If you would have opened up that account at the bank and under the EIN for your business, and then the bank pays interest and they tell the IRS that this tax identification number received interest, then the IRS is going to be confused because they're going to be looking for that interest to be reported on your business tax return, which of course you wouldn't be doing because you are investing in your 401k, on a tax deferred basis. And then lastly, don't combine with personal funds. So it really has to be separate and segregated. So now let's start to dig into the mechanics of opening up an account at ErisX. So you start out by sending an email. They have a sign up link on their website. That's not the process you want to follow though. You want to send an email to onboarding@erisx.com. You want to include your name. If there's multiple participants, like a husband and wife that are both participating in the plan, include both names, the name of your solo 401k plan. Again, if it's going to be multiple participants, so it could be two people, but only one person wants to invest, like a co-trustee situation, then you would still include both names, but just say it's going to be one account. If it's going to be two accounts, explain that in the email briefly. If it's going to be you might also have multiple accounts because you're trying to invest multiple types of money, like pre-tax and Roth money. What will happen next is ErisX is going to send you the application and agreements to complete via DocuSign. And again, don't use the sign up link. So now we've got some slides here with the application. So first part of the application asks for the name of the trust. So that's your 401k plan. So use the name of your solo 401k, XYZ Trust. Include the FBO language. So that's for the benefit of, so that's you. If it's multiple people, that'll help explain it there. If it's pre-tax or Roth, put pre-tax or Roth in parens afterwards. So it could be XYZ Trust for the benefit of John Smith on one application, XYZ Trust for the benefit of Jane Smith on the second application, or XYZ Trust for the benefit of John Smith pre-tax for the first application, second application, XYZ Trust for the benefit of John Smith Roth in parens. Then you got the basic information, address, city, state, zip, phone number. Use the EIN for the plan, here where it's asking for the trust tax ID number. And one thing I'll comment on is ErisX is awesome. They actually recognize that you might be opening up an account for a 401k. I know a lot of you have gone to different exchanges, and you feel like you're talking to a wall because they've never heard of a solo 401k, etc. So that's half the battle, is just understanding. So then you keep going down, email, mailing address if it's different, another email if you want another email. Then you've got trustee information. Trustee, that's you. So here, if it's multiple participants, put the person for whom the account is being opened first, and then when we get the co-trustee information, put the other person. So back to John and Jane Smith. For John's application, put John Smith first. For Jane's application, you're going to put Jane's information here. So you would enter, the information, it's self-explanatory, first name, date of birth, social, address, alternative mailing address. You're going to choose down here whether US citizen or non-US citizen. The additional documentation is needed. And we'll talk about how on that page, submitting that, but some of that documentation is highlighted here, like your ID. If it's a non-US citizen, additional information is needed. Again, we've got the co-trustee information. If it's just you, there's no co-trustee, then this doesn't apply. More information for the co-trustee, and it's the same type of information, US citizen, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get to the primary beneficiaries section. So this is, technically it's optional, because what's going to govern your account is going to be the beneficiary election form that we sent you when you first set up the plan. So that's where you would indicate who gets your money when you die, who gets your 401k money when you die. So that could be you, that could be your spouse, your kids. Some people want to put their living trust. We've got videos out there that go into that in great detail. But if you're going to fill this out, make it consistent with the beneficiary election form is the pro tip here. And then contingent beneficiaries, that's just like the beneficiary election form. It's got the same section. Now, employer information. So that's your self-employed business. Now, that could be an entity if you've got an entity for your business. It could be a DBA if you've got a DBA, so doing business as. If it's just a sole proprietor with no DBA, just enter your name. Again, you want a next field plan name. That's the name of the trust. Employer tax identification, employer tax ID number. So here, you would want to go ahead and enter the EIN of the solo 401k. Then for applicant contact information, that's you. So enter that information. Next screen, more contact information, nighttime contact information. Then we've got questions. So you want to complete these as applicable. A lot of this is about your relationship with ErisX, just your relationship with the type of activity you're conducting. It's pretty self-explanatory. So let's see here. And those questions continue. Then we get to the field number 9, where you're going to enter the information for the solo 401k bank account. So for example, if you have your account at Wells Fargo for the 401k, you would choose the account. If it's 2 people, the one that relates to you. So if it's John Smith has one account for his 401k and Jane has a second account for her 401k account, you're going to choose your own account. Question 10 about confirming that the nature of the activity is a solo 401k. So you want to choose yes and confirm that. Then we get to the member master agreement. So you are the member. So this is your relationship with ErisX. So in the first field here, you're going to choose the name, enter the name of the solo 401k. For the type of entity, enter retirement trust. For the state, it's going to be the state of the solo 401k plan. Again, you are the member. In section 17.1, you'll have the opportunity to enter your email address, and then you sign as the trustee of the solo 401k. Now let's look at the additional documentation needed. So you're going to need to submit your identification for each trustee. So that's one for John, one for Jane. That's your driver's license, passport, for example. Submit a copy of the trust agreement and the adoption agreement. So both of those are included in the solo 401k establishment documents. You'll notice that one of the requirements is appointment and acceptance of trustee. So this will satisfy that. Copy of the IRS EIN letter for the solo 401k plan. Again, that's part of the establishment process. So that's the SS4 form. It looks like a letter from the IRS that has your EIN number. And then finally, a W-9 form. So we've got a screen here that tells us how to complete that. So we've got at the top in field 1, you enter the name of your solo 401k. You're going to choose other and enter retirement trust. Exemption code 1, put the address for the plan, including the city and state, and then you enter that EIN number under the taxpayer identification number section. Okay, so before we talk about going back to some of the features and the funding, let's look and see what questions we have. Thank you so much for all the participation and the good questions.
Hey, George, it'd be great. I know there's some questions that have come in too that I could probably answer if that's okay. I could start from the top. Let me see from the top here. Let's see. There's somebody that asked that my money has been standing for weeks because I can't get any crypto platform confirmed for my 401k trust. We actually work with solo 401k, so that would be you'd be able to have access to ErisX. We actually, as George mentioned, we've created our own application for these accounts. So yes, as I touched on earlier, Coinbase and Gemini do have long lead times to getting approvals. There's a question here about BMO Harris. To be honest with the group, we actually do our banking with BMO Harris. That's our primary bank. So they should be working with you to be able to move any kind of funds into ErisX. I would say, go ahead, George.
Just to be clear, thanks for sorry to cut you off, but this here, presumably we're talking about the account for the solo 401k.
Correct. So it's a little bit different than if you're going to compare the two of them.
Possibly, but I mean, I think the fact that if BMO, so it sounds like the experience here is that the individual opened up an account, and thank you so much for the comment and feedback. We really appreciate you sharing your experience. So we're back to the process, right, of opening up the account. So if you're opening up you need to open an account for your solo 401k at a bank. So it sounds like this person opened up an account at BMO Harris in the name of their plan, but when they went to go fund the account at the exchange, the bank shut it down. But maybe if the folks at BMO can connect the dots with ErisX, they may have a different experience. Who knows? But that would be.
We're definitely open to working with you and offering assistance. You asked about certain national banks. I just think that some of them have to get more comfortable, like a Bank of America and Chase. So they're lagging a little bit behind, to be honest.
I think Wells has been a good one. Mm-hmm. We also, if you are a client, of course, and you're running into problems, don't hesitate to email us. Shoot us an email us or call at the best probably way is business@mysolo401k.net. Put your plan name in the subject line, and we can help find another bank resource if you're running into problems.
Another question here was about private keys. We actually keep the private keys, so you do not have to worry about losing the private keys. The way that we've set up our IRA structure, just to be upfront from the beginning, is and it's something we're going to explore to change, but right now I like to call it a closed loop system, so that the fiat comes into the account. You're able to buy the crypto, the coin stays on the account with ErisX in our custody, and then if you decide to sell the coin, then it would switch to fiat and it would fund back to your trust provider. Right now we don't allow participants to take coin off exchange. It is something that we are exploring, and I have in my product pipeline for the future to be able to enable people to be able to withdraw the coin and put it in their own private wallets. So just to keep the group aware of that.
Good comment and good response. And just to piggyback, once you get to that point, the approach that we've always talked about here with solo 401k and our webinars, et cetera, is if you're going to put it in a physical wallet, you do it in a physical wallet that's separate and segregated from a physical wallet that you might be using to store cryptocurrency that you're buying with non-retirement money. And you would store that physical wallet in a safety deposit box associated with that solo 401k bank account. So just to refresh on that point.
Okay.
Sounds like some good feedback about Wells Fargo, just to continue the bank.
Perfect.
So it sounds like Wells has always been a good option as far as opening accounts, just generally solo 401k bank accounts. So that's not surprising. A lot of feedback about just not hearing from Coinbase, which is consistent.
I just answered the question from I Am Intraceable about the cold storage wallet. If you were to open an account outside of your IRA, you could actually withdraw those funds and put it in a cold storage wallet of your own.
I see. And then we talked about this on a slide. What documentation do we need to provide? We had that slide. Mm-hmm. So, and you'll be able to skip ahead, like I said, in the recording, but here it is. And just to put a little bit more meat on the bones on that one. So you would email. One option is emailing, and then there's going to be a share file option coming out soon, I believe, right?
That's correct, for moving personal information. Looks like somebody here said that Kraken enjoys pitas, so that's nice to know. Dave actually said here, I know I'm going to go back to Dave's question earlier about the support lines. He was asking what the best way to communicate with us is to send emails to onboarding@erisx.com, but we do have a market ops group that's available 24/7. I just didn't have the phone number before when we were mentioning it. It's 1-888-782-7481, option number 1. Okay.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. It's 1-888-782-7481, option number 1.
Thank
And
you.
there's a question about ACH. We support wires and ACH into the platform. So
That's great.
Yep. There's a question about fees. Our fee is 50 basis points for orders executed within an IRA account, and that would include direct members, solo 401ks, and LLCs. Custody with TD Ameritrade, any connectivity with TD Ameritrade is an investor in ErisX, and then, as we all know, TD was acquired by Schwab. Right now, there's been multiple discussions about them entering the crypto space, and I know that they've been vocal about doing the research on it, but unfortunately, they're not there as of yet. You would actually have to move the funds out of TD into a solo 401k account, unfortunately, and then fund ErisX. Just answer that.
And you might have, just to shed some light, we have a lot of people that have their brokerage accounts at TD for their solo 401k. But based on experience with the brokerage firms, it's generally better to fund the account at the exchange from a bank account. So you could have both a bank account for your solo 401k and a brokerage account, like a TD for your solo 401k. And you can move it between accounts, and that's not a reportable event or a taxable event.
Perfect. Let's see here, reading through some more of these. National banks. Can I transfer crypto in? That is something that we're working on right now. Right now, we can do, in certain conditions, a one-off, but we're really trying to move where we'll be able to put better controls in place that'll make it easier. But there are unique situations where we can allow the transfer point in. What sort of precaution in place that you place? So I mentioned before that you, as a IRA account, this is for Dave, you can't withdraw coin as of now. That's something we are working on to make an enhancement to the system. Don't go into a cold wallet. There was a question about an app. We do not have an app as of yet. It's something in our product pipeline, but it's not ideal. But the mobile version is sized to people's phones right now to be able to use it off of your phone.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for filling all those comments and questions, and thanks everybody for asking them. So I think you knocked them all out. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So let's keep going through the slides. So sub accounts supported. It's going to be multiple applications. Funding the account with fiat dollars, yes. You're going to transfer it from your solo 401k bank account, so the names are going to match. I know as far as processing times, we've obviously been getting a lot of comments about that as far as being a pain point, and ErisX can do it a heck of a lot faster. It sounds like 10 days, 5 business days is about the range.
That's correct.
So I know that a lot of people will be thrilled about that. So that sounds really good. And then we've got some practical tips. A lot of this is just emphasizing some of the things we've already touched on, just the name and EIN of the solo 401k. It's quite important. Separate accounts for multiple participants or types of funds. Just funding it. We heard from John, you can fund it with either a wire or an ACH. That's great. So again, a lot of this is redundant. So then we've got learn more. So we've got John's contact information. We'll touch on that, which is here. Obviously, ErisX, Twitter, Medium. Then you've got us at business@mysolo401k.net. And then again, to get started with ErisX, it's that email address. So let's show that.
Yep, onboarding at erisx.com.
Okay, awesome. So thank you so much for spending so much time with us, John. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you, George. It's been great, and appreciate your viewers sending in the comments, and look forward to being able to offer them a solution with trading on ErisX.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Please like and subscribe, and thanks again for all your time. Okay, take care.
Thank you, George. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too.